All right, so first of all, I'm gonna start by apologizing. I already apologized to the ones here. Apologizing to you guys for starting a little late. Hey, Tiana, good to see you. So for starting a little late, as I mentioned on day one, I am scheduled for surgery due to a back injury that I have for over 16 years. So there are some days that it's tough for me to be here standing, or to drive, or even to walk. Today was one of those days. So I do apologize for having to delay the class. The good news is that we only have one chapter today, which is chapter 6. So we're going to divide it into 2 parts. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot to cover in this chapter, which is a transfer of real estate. So just like with every chapter, I ask you guys to pay full attention to it. All right? And if you have any questions, participate, ask the questions. All right? So that being said, let me open chapter 6. All right, so chapter 6. We have here transferring of real estate and recording title to real estate, right? So we're going to start talking about title to real estate. There's 2 different types of titles. There's the legal title and there's the equitable title. Guys, make sure your name matches who you are, because it needs to record on Zoom, and your attendance is based on your names. So if your name is incorrect in the Zoom, please correct it. Thank you. All right, so legal and equitable title. What's the difference between these? Very simple. Is my name on the title, or do I have a claim to title? That's the difference. So if you have equitable, you have a claim to title. If you have legal title, you are the legal owner, or your name is on it. Okay? All right? We're going to go over this obviously in detail. I just want you guys to remember, legal title means my name is on the deed. I'm the legal owner of the property. If it's equitable title, I have an interest or a claim to the title, or claim to the property. Okay? So legal and equitable title. Owning title to real property commonly connotes owning a complete bundle of rights that attach to the property, including the right of possession, right? More accurately, someone who possesses all the ownership interests owns legal title to the property. And legal title is distinct from equitable title, in which the interest or right to obtain title to a property in accordance with a sale or mortgage contract between the legal owner, the buyer, or the creditor. So pretty much an easy way to remember this is, if I have value in the property, then I have equitable title. So let's say I'm buying your house, right? Guys, make sure you have your name tags. So make sure I'm buying your house right now, right? I'm gonna buy your house. I put an offer. During the offer period, I have no interest in your property whatsoever. But around the moment you accept the offer, right? We are now in what's called under contract. We go through an attorney review. We're under contract. You cannot now sell to anyone else without me releasing the contract. I do not own your property, right? But I have equitable title in your property. So during the contractual period, I locked the property. You cannot sell to anybody else without relieving me. If you guys remember yesterday, we talked about mortgages, right? Mortgage is the same thing. It's an encumbrance, a lien, right? that is attached to the property, and you cannot sell the property without clearing the mortgage. So it's the same thing. Equitable title is when you have a claim or right to the property, but your name is not on the deed. If your name is on the deed, you have legal title. If your name is not on the deed, but you have a hold or control to the property, you have equitable title because there's value to it. You have an interest or a right to the property. That's equitable. There's value. Okay? So, as it says here, for example, as I was explaining, a buyer enters into a contract for deeds to purchase a house. The seller lends the bulk of the purchase price to the buyer for a term of 3 years. The buyer takes possession of the property and makes payments on the loan. During this period, the seller retains legal title. Why? Because he did not transfer to the buyer yet. The buyer owns equitable title because they have that lock or that interest in the property. Okay? If the buyer fulfills the terms of the agreement, so if we get to the actual closing, or in this type of example is I'm paying you in installments, if I get to the end, pay it off, then the title transfers to me and I become the legal owner. So from the moment you put a contract or from the moment there's a mortgage, other people have equitable title on our property. What does that mean again? You cannot sell the property without clearing us, without kicking us out, without paying off the mortgage, without paying off the taxes, without paying off judgments, without paying off whoever put the contract, right? So equitable title is not ownership, but it's the right to ownership or an interest in to ownership. Any questions there? Questions at home? Make sure you drop the questions in the Zoom. Questions here, if you have, let me know. Maybe to follow. Mm-hmm. Or just get the book.
I thought I could mark up.
Oh, you can download what I have here. It's called Drawboard PDF. That's the software that I use here. It's called Drawboard PDF.
When you edit those, they keep it the same.
Everything I do here, like writing it, everything I do stays if I save it. What I do is when I exit the PDF, I always clear it because there's going to be a new class and I'm going to have to put the notes again. Otherwise, it'd be crazy. The new class sees my notes like all over the place and not understand and me explaining it. No. I like to doodle. I like to draw. I like to write in a way that people don't understand, like Natasha like complains about it, right? But yes, you can save it and it stays that way. In fact, the first time I used Drawboard PDF, I did not know. So I closed everything, saved, right? And I come to the new class, and I'm like, everything is here. I'm like, oh, here I go, erase as I go. No, it didn't work that well. But if you want to buy the book, I have another book there.
How much is the book?
$47. Plus $20 for delivery. Yeah.
You already have it right.
I have to go pick it up. All right, it's 2 rooms over. I have to come back. You know, that's called shipping and handling, right?
Wait, does everybody get a PDF no matter if you book or not?
Yeah, you always get the PDF. That's on the student portal. So you always get the PDF regardless. But some people choose to have, they prefer the physical book, some really don't care. Yeah, they were shipped. Some people have it. Yeah. Some people got it, not all. And then some people halfway ask for it, and they're like, you're already halfway, so it's tough. Anyway. All right, next. Notice of title. What does the word notice means?
Notify. Say something. Alert.
Alert, okay. So warning, that's what Sebastian said online, right? So alert, warning, right? Or simply disclosure. So it's warning, disclosures, alerts, right? Letting everyone know something. That's what notice means, right? So in any legal system that permits private ownership of real property, there will always be disputes as to who truly owns a particular parcel of real estate. This is where I need your attention. It says right here, how do we figure out who actually owns the real estate? See if you guys can answer this one. For example, an owner might sell his property to 3 unrelated parties. My first question is, can we sell something to 3 different people? One thing to 3 different people, can we sell it? Legally, no, right? How can you sell the same house to 3 different people? Legally, no. So that's why we need to determine who has the right to claim the property after the sales. So the first party buys the property at the earliest date, so buys first. The second party pays the highest price. And the third party receives the deed, a warranty deed. Who owns the legal title to the property? All right? So hold on, let me just recap. First party was the first one there, obviously, so the earliest date. And then let's say a couple months later, shows up somebody else that the seller sold the property to for the highest price, so $300,000 more, let's say. And then comes a third party that gets a deed. Who actually owns the property? Go. The person with the deed, okay? Guys, let me know in the chat if it's number 1, number 2, or 3. Is it the first party that was here first, second party that paid the highest price, or third party that has the deed? Right? We got one that says the deed. Natasha, what do you think? Simi? Deed, deed, deed. That's what you assume. All right, let's see what we got here on the answers. Everybody's going for the deed. Adriana, to destabilize everything goes number 1. The guy that was here first. All right? What about the second party that paid the most? It really doesn't matter. Just because you paid the most doesn't mean anything. Right. So we have a battle between number 1 and number 3. Right? Now, Adriana, you might be the winner. Because everybody else went for, oh, they have the deed. Let's look at this. I'm not saying she is the winner. Okay? What I'm saying is everybody went for the common answer that everybody does. It's the common sense answer, I'm sorry, which is I have a deed, so I have title, right? So, first of all, and that's why number 1 and number 3 might be the correct answers, ownership of legal title is a function of evidence. So ownership of legal title is a function of evidence. So I have to be able to prove that I do have the title, that I do have the rights, correct? Good so far? Evidence, right. Now, a court will generally rule that a person who has a preponderance of evidence of ownership is the owner of the property. Now, in this example, the first 2 buyers did not receive the deed while the third party did. The third party, as you guys commonly agreed, don't get so happy, Sebastian. He's like, yeah. Right. So the third party may have the best evidence, and be ruled the legal title owner. However, go ahead, Sebastian, celebrate. Go ahead. However, right? However, what if the first buyer had moved in to the house and occupied it for 6 months before the original owner sold the property to the second and third buyers? Did you ever hear possession is 9/10 of the law? Right? You never heard that? Let me ask you something. This phone right here, who does it belong to? Why? Did you see the deed?
The contract.
Did you see it? Did anybody see the contract, the sale? It's in my hand.
Have it.
You're assuming it's mine because I've been using it for almost 2 years. Why would I use somebody else's property for almost 2 years? Right? So possession. Prove to me and prove to the court that this is not mine. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Whoever's there using it, taking possession of the property, is the one entitled to claim rights to it until somebody with a superior claim shows up. So you have to be able to prove that your claim is superior to mine in order for you to be able to get the phone or to get the house or to get the car. You guys understand? So possession, 9/10 of the law. If I live there, even though I don't have the deed, but I claim that the property was sold to me, it's now a debatable issue in court. Okay? The one with the deed might not be the one with the best claim. You have a comment? What, on the phone? Oh. No, right. So the reason why I did not ask anything else after, or give more details, the reason I didn't do it is so we can go through this thought process. That's why now it's giving you a new example, which is, hey, however, if this happens, then who has the strongest, right? Everybody went for the deed, and you're right. If I have the deed, I have evidence. You're right. But, correct. Mm-hmm. So yes, and that's the first thing we started right here. Maybe the best evidence. If you have a deed, maybe the best evidence. Yeah. However, if I can prove, like I said, if I can prove that it was sold to me, right? And I'm here occupying it. Why would I be here occupying when I'm claiming that somebody sold to me, right? And I'm not the owner. Why would I be here occupying it? So if I can prove, or if I have, and guys, we will learn about this in different chapters when we get to contracts. But a verbal contract or verbal agreement could also stand. It's difficult because, again, if somebody shows up with a superior claim, like, hey, I have the deed, right? That's a superior claim. I could lose the property, even though I've been occupying it for 6 months. Do you understand? So that's the thing. We need to read more, right? Or try to understand more, see which one is correct. If the question said nothing else, Adriana, I'm sorry. If the question said nothing else, you'd be wrong. Everybody else would be correct. The deed would be the answer. All right? If the question starts putting more stuff, more info, then maybe the deed is not the correct one. That's why we need to read more. For instance, you guys remember the second buyer, the one that paid the most? Can the second buyer have a superior claim as well? Figure out. What if the second buyer, after searching title, right, searching the title records, doing a title search as we call it, reports that the seller, look at this, reports that the seller, Sebastian, since you're asking, I'm answering, reports that the seller never really owned the property and therefore could not legally sell it to anyone. And now you're like, I see your face, like, wait a minute, how could he sell something that's not his? All right, is that what you're thinking? All right, here's the answer. You never heard of those people that write by Best Buy, for instance, or Walmart or whatever, and they're like, look. This phone, look, we had a batch of phones, right? And I had to deliver them, but I can't deliver them anymore because if I it was a problem with the inventory, and if I bring it back to the office, or if I bring it back to the factory or whatever, then I'm gonna get in trouble. So I need to get rid of it. Would you buy this phone for $100? You never heard of these people? that are out there saying, oh, it fell from the truck or stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do they own it?
Oh.
Do they have the right to sell it? No. They sell you those Tempur-Pedic mattresses for like $200. They're just trying to make money put in their pocket, right? Is it? Is it? All right. So once you start realizing what we're going to go over, right, you're going to realize that in the United States, for instance, and mostly anywhere, but in the United States, there's no proper way of recording. That's what we're going to go over here right now. That it's very difficult to prove title. It's very difficult to prove title because our system, the deed is prepared by the grantor, so the seller. The buyer never signs anything. So if I sell my property to John Smith, right? How many John Smiths are there in the United States? In fact, you know what? And no offense, I think everybody knows this is just so that it's not like discriminatory comment. But if you go to Chinatown, right? You could become John Smith if you pay $120. Right? You get that ID, you show up in front of the notary. I am the real John Smith. Right? And I'm selling my house right here. See, what we're going to learn is that the deeds, and guys, I'm not in no way, shape, or form encouraging fraud. I'm just letting you know that fraud exists. Right? So to answer the Scooby-Doo faces that I see, like, how can somebody sell something that's not theirs, right? And no offense to the Scooby-Doo faces, because everybody does it. I do it all the time. Like, what? Right? So I could be a John Smith for a day and sell somebody else's property. The deed does not show the signature of the buyer, does not show the date of birth of the buyer, does not show the social security of the buyer, right? Does not have a picture of the buyer. So technically, anybody could be the John Smith and sell someone else's property. You understand? So if I sell your property, hey, it just fell off the truck, right? It's the same concept. The deed is created, and it's public records. So for me to find out who owns the property, John Smith, I go there, I pull the records, I have all the info. So if somebody asks me in a title search, yeah, I bought it from Bruno. And it's right here. Here's the deed. From Bruno to John Smith. I'm now the new John Smith. And I'm selling the property to Simi. Means nothing. Absolutely nothing. So that's why it says right here, the illustration underscores the difficulty of proving title to real estate. There is no absolute or irrefutable proof that the party holds legal title. Our legal system has developed two forms of title evidence. One is actual notice, the other one is constructive notice to assist in the determination. Actual notice is very simple. You actually know the information. Actual notice, you actually know the information. Right? That means you either researched or you were told. So you have actual knowledge of information. Okay? So to give you an example, actual notice. As you guys are reading this right now, right? You have here in the screen. As you guys are reading this, you now have actual notice of what I just read. Right? Do you know what I'm about to read? It's there. It's available. Right? The fact that it's available, it's called constructive notice. Constructive notice is the information is available. We're in chapter 6. There's way more chapters to go. You guys know they're there. You haven't read them. You haven't researched. You're just going day by day. So every day you receive what's called actual notice. Every day as you learn, as I am here teaching you guys, you get actual notice. Constructive notice is information is available. Constructive notice, information is available, like public records. Can I do a title search on public records? Yes. Now, when I record the deed, because I'm the buyer, I record the deed that I bought it, that the seller sold to me. When I record a deed, that deed is now available in public records. Therefore, constructive notice to everybody else. Okay? Does anybody own a house? You own a house? Anyone? All right, Leslie, we got Adriana. Who else? Okay, Tiana, Olga, great. It's very easy for me to find out which house you own. Very easy for me to find out when you bought it. All that information is online. It's public records. Okay? Do I need to go research? Do I need to go through our database and see, hey, let's figure out who has a house and who doesn't? I don't need to. Only if I have an interest in buying that particular property. Now I'm going to go research. Let's say Tiana calls me and says, Bruno, I want to sell my house. Would you like to buy, or do you know somebody? Right? And if I say, yes, I want to buy, the first step is going to be what? 1, get it pre-approved. 2, work with a realtor. Let's assume that I'm not one, right? Work with a realtor. And 3, put an offer. I put an offer on her property. Now, once I put an offer, I believe that Tiana's the owner. Tiana, is it under your name, your husband's name, or both of you? Like mouthing over there like I'm going to understand. Husband's name. Why did you raise your hand saying you own a home? Call your husband. Put him on the camera. Is he there? He's not there today? I caught him once on camera. Yeah. He was walking out, and I'm like, oh, bring him here.
Wait, they can't hear. They didn't turn the mic off.
I have everybody mics blocked because usually there's cats, there's dogs, there's pets. Oh, yeah. I'm talking about kids. There's a lot of noise. He just wrote whatever's his is mine. I'm not going to make a comment about that right now. But anyway. All right, so Tiana is not the one, well, that's the primary residence, so she has to. But let's say it's an investment home. Tiana is not the one that has to sign the deed. But if she does sell something to me, until now, I'm under the pretense that she is the owner. You guys understand? But now I asked who the owner is. I now have actual notice that the owner is her husband. So when I go search public records, I'm not going to see Tiana anywhere. You guys understand? I'm not going to see her anywhere. But as soon as I search her husband's name, all right, here it is. Owns this property, bought it on this day. Here's the actual taxes for this property, all the information. Are they up to date or not? Right? I have actual notice. The information was available. Only when we do a search of the title is when we get actual notice. Until then, until I asked who was the owner, until I did some more digging, some more research, constructive notice. You guys good with this? What is construction notice? Information's available. What is actual notice? You researched, and now you know that Tiana does not own the house. That's the answer. That's actual notice. Good? You guys know the difference now between actual and constructive notice? Okay. Alex, make sure you change your name on Zoom, please. Mr. Supreme Realtor, come on. He has to say your name. All right. Any questions on notice? Disclosures? No? Okay. Transferring title. Whoever's watching on YouTube, if you have questions, you can always participate, ask questions. All right, transferring title. Now, the transfer of title real estate is called alienation, and I'll explain that in a second. And this occurs voluntary or involuntary. We can voluntarily sell our property or involuntarily be taken away from us. Okay? So we can voluntarily transfer the property, which could be by deed or by will, for instance, right? Exchange, for instance. Or involuntary, where you're being forced out of the property, like foreclosure, as an example. Okay? Now, when the transfer uses a written instrument, the transfer is called conveyance. I'm going to talk about alienation in a second. I want to talk about this right now. Written instruments. Okay? This word right here means tool. Okay? And I'll explain better in a second. You guys know what a guitar is? Guitar? Drums? Stuff like that? What are those? They're musical instruments. So they're the tools we use to play music, right? What about a scalpel? Say louder. A tool for the doctor. I'm not going to go into my primary doctor and he comes with a scalpel. A tool for the surgeon, though. Oh, yeah. But yes, even the regular doctor can have one for minor stuff. But anyway, it's a medical instrument. So it's a medical tool. All right? So when we're talking here about written instrument, it means that it's the tool or the document. Every time you see instrument, you're going to see this a bunch of times. Right? So it's the document I'll make it nicer because I don't want her complaining. Document. Okay. It's the document, right? The written instrument is the document that evidences the transfer. Okay. So instead of a guitar, we have a piece of paper. Instead of a scalpel, we have a piece of paper. That's the instrument. That's the tool we use to document the transfer. Okay? Or to evidence the transfer. Okay? So when you see tool, you see instrument is a tool for a particular purpose. In this case, it's to document something, to evidence something. Okay? Now, the written document, we call it deed of conveyance. Now, conveyance, can anybody tell me what this word means? Conveyance? Transfer. Very good. I'm going to mention this a million times. Transfer. Every time you see transfer, think of convey or conveyance. Every time you see conveyance, think of transfer. Very good. All right. So, transfer title to real estate, also called alienation, occurs voluntarily and involuntarily, and when the transfer uses a written instrument, the transfer is called a conveyance. So we get a deed of conveyance. We talked about deeds before. Okay. Now, let's talk about the word alienation. Okay. Why is the transfer called alienation? Why is the transfer called alienation? First of all, I like to always break down the words, right? What does the word alien mean? What does the word alien mean? Not that hard. Something from space? Something from... Oh, okay. Something or someone.
Someone.
Thank you. I just got offended for a second. I'm something. Right? And he said from outer space? People think aliens is like the green things right out there. Right? We don't even know if they're green, but okay.
But they're real though.
Huh?
But they're real.
Who's real? The green ones?
Aliens.
Are they?
Didn't know that? I'm playing. They did say they seen things.
Are they green?
yeah, they are actually.
You're messing with her. All right, so if they're green or not, we do not know. Personally, I think it's very unlikely that we're the only planet, the little tiny thing in the middle of the universe, we're the only planet that has life forms, but okay. Anyway, so back to alien. What is alien? Alien means foreign. Natasha, were you born here? This country? Your
Yeah.
parents? Sorry if I'm asking personal stuff. They were? And your grandparents? No? Where were they born?
yeah, there was.
Decide yourself.
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico is a part of the United States.
Wasn't.
We are Americans. That's what she just said.
Wait, you reference Puerto Rican.
Carlos like, yep, yep, that's it. We're Americans. All right. Hey, Rafaelito, what's going on, man? All right, so, but they were from Puerto Rico. Let's assume Puerto Rico was not an attachment. Because pretty much that's what it is. They haven't been, come on, don't give me that look. They haven't been officially recognized as a state. They're an attachment, right? Just like Guam and everything else. They're an attachment. They're there. Boom. Right? So, and I'm not saying this in a demeaning way. It's not trying to talk bad about it, but you see even the treatment is like, it's like the stepchild. The treatment that the United States had when the, hurricanes and everything, like the stepchild. Okay, all right, deal with it. 3 million people. That's it. So stepchild sucks. Anyway, so what we're trying to say is foreign. So if your grandparents were born in Puerto Rico, right, and let's say Puerto Rico was not yet an attachment, so we would not be considered a legal citizen, then they are foreign. If they're foreign, they're aliens. Okay, they're aliens to land. In fact, look, I'm from Portugal, and for several years, I was a legal alien, right? Because I had a green card, and that's what it says: legal alien, resident card.
I thought you said legal.
No, actually, when I came in, I was legal, right? When I came in, I was legal. Some other people in my family might have not been legal when they came in. I came already with a green card. So I'm not going anywhere unless I'm green. Right? You're talking about aliens and green people, right? That's it. I was green when I came here back in '93, the first time. Anyway, so I was alien. And then in 2009, what did I decide to do? Become a citizen. So what I want you guys to think of, when you see alienation, it's exactly that. Somebody foreign that now becomes a residence. So if I have the deed, right? Here's my name. I am the resident. I am the citizen of this house. Right? If you think about it in the same way, the citizen of this house. And then we're going to have here, see me, you're going to make an offer on my property. You want to buy my property, okay? Now, Simi is alien. Alien to what? To the house. She's not part of the title. She's alien, right? Simi, you're making an offer. You're still not the owner. So there's a clear separation. You stay there until you buy. If you buy, then I'll let you in because I'm moving out. You understand? So when we close, this changes. Here will be Simi. And here will be me. Why? Because I'm out of the title. I'm out of the property. It's no longer me. You understand? So alienation is the transfer of real estate to somebody else. So that somebody else now is the legal owner or the resident or the citizen of that property. And nobody can take Simi away from the property. I no longer, you see the separation here? I no longer have the rights to the property. I got kicked out of my country. That's what it was. Okay? Any questions? You guys understood alienation? Good. Hey, Sanam, good morning. Rafaelitos asks, what's today's chapter about? So today's chapter is about transfer of title. Okay? Transfer of title. All right, Sanam wrote, she's funny. So obviously I cannot see people on YouTube. Here I can see, right? And nowadays it's also difficult to figure out things and not being offensive in any way. So I didn't know, Sanam, if it was a man or a woman. So in one day I said that, hey, I'm sorry, I don't know if you're a man, if you're a woman, how do you want to be addressed, right? Because I don't see it. It's just text. Now every time she says hi, puts a hi, right? And then puts the symbol. Female.
Oh, female symbol. Oh.
Like, address me properly, okay? Anyway, people are funny. I don't know. Nowadays, people get offended about anything. It's like I don't do it on purpose. It's just, I don't know.
It's the world we live in now.
No, but I got no problem with that. It's your choice. Just give me a badge or something that says, hey, this is what I am. This is how I like to be addressed. Or give me a heads up. Don't feel offended if I say you're a man or a woman. Oh, I'm not. I got no problem with you, what you want to be. But don't be offended if I don't know. That's the only thing. Right? And then there's people that, like, when they know, they still push the stupidity on it, right? They're like, no, you have to be a woman. You have to be a man. No, I have to be whatever I want. I want to be a ghost. Transparent. No, I'm getting there. See? For 39 years, I've been getting there. All right. Transferring title to real estate could be voluntary, involuntary. How can we have voluntary transfer? By public grant. That means you gave the property or offered the property to the government, right? We'll talk about that later. So you gifted the property to the government. By deeds, that means you sold the property. Or by will, that means you left it to your heirs. Okay, so that's the voluntary ways to transfer property. What about involuntary? By the laws of descent or escheat. What is descent or escheat? That means if you don't have a will, okay, so let me put it here. We will talk about all this stuff. If you don't have a will, then the state determines who gets what from your assets. They determine. It's called law of descent. If nobody claims, right? You asked this question, like when he tried to kill me yesterday. That's why I feel so much pain. He was verbally trying to kill me. So, the laws of descent, the government gets the property, right? And distributes according to what the state laws are. So they distribute the assets according to the state laws. If nobody claims, then the government keeps it by its cheat. They cheat you out of your property. That's what it is. Okay? Foreclosure, you did not pay the mortgage bill, you did not pay the tax bill, you did not pay whatever bill. Foreclosure means there was a financial claim. There was money unpaid, right? Eminent domain, we talked briefly about it yesterday, which is the government's right to take the property from you as long as it is for public good. You guys remember that? For public good. They cannot just take the property just because. It has to be like, hey, Adriana, Monica, Leslie, Tiana, Brian, we're taking your properties because you live on the same block, and that's the block we want to put a school in. We need a new school for the community, right? It happens to become a mall, but originally it was supposed to be a school. Yeah, they do. That's why I threw that one in there. Right? It's funny because in 2011, that happened to a client of mine on South 18th Street here, right? Yeah. So they said, hey, we need your property because we're going to build a school. And they did that to a couple of people there, right? All I know is 2018, the last time I checked, I haven't checked for the past 2 years, the school is still not there. Nothing yet. But I already checked with City Hall. I didn't see the properties. I checked with City Hall because I had a huge project here that was brought up by an investor. And that whole thing is being revamped. But still no school in the plans. I don't know what happened to the school. I just know the people don't have the properties. Oh yeah. They pay you fair or just compensation. Just enough for you not to complain. Okay. It's the government. Do you think you have a choice? Were you here in 2020? Just saying. Say it again. Public good. Eminent domain. Through the process of condemnation. They condemn your property to take it down, and they use it for public good. All right. Next we have is adverse possession. What is adverse possession? Everybody should know this by now. Talked about it. When was it? Too long ago, right? What was it? You weren't here, right? It was yesterday. All right. So what is adverse possession? A little louder. He heard steal, he got it. Go. Say it louder. He just heard steal. He goes like, oh, I know which one it is now. It's right. Stealing someone's property. Yeah. Legally, though.
That's a word.
Adverse possession. If you stay using somebody's property, this has to be adverse, hostile, visible, open, notorious. People need to know what you're doing. You cannot hide it. Remember the sweet old lady that I said gardening and all that stuff? Or the fence, right? It has to be visible, right? Like the $100 that Natasha ran away with, right? Put it right in the pocket and like, I don't care if it's Bruno's. I'm taking it, right? So that's adverse possession. It's an abandonment claim or squatter's rights. Mr. Salgado just answered squatter's rights. Okay? So squatter's rights, adverse possession, and it could also be called easement by prescription. I call it abandonment claim because you're claiming something that was deemed abandoned according to state laws. I didn't do it, but yeah. In fact, you can search on the news. There's this guy in Texas that got a property for $16, which is the filing fee over there. There's somebody in there's a lot of people. There's somebody in Florida. This Brazilian kid, 24 years old, almost got the property, a mansion, a $3.2 million mansion in Florida. Almost got it. Like it's like that commercial. Ooh, you almost had it, right? You know why?
Why?
Because unfortunately, Brazilians love to party. This guy made so many parties. Don't be laughing, Zenaida. You know it's true. She's. You don't even say anything anymore, right? But he was partying so much. All jokes aside, the guy. This is a true story. He was partying so much that they called the cops. They called the cops once. They called the cops twice. At the third time, where's the owner? And at that moment, he could not prove the papers because he was doing the process of adverse possession. And now they had to notify all rightful owners or people with claims, like Bank of America still had a mortgage there. So, guy got kicked out. He almost had it. 6 years. Yeah. Adverse possession. Did you pay for my $100 that you stole? No.
But even if he
Some states you have to pay taxes, some states you don't. You just have to use the property, maintain the property, that's it. So you do pay something like maintaining the property. You're not going to be there without lights, you're not going to be there without water. You have to clean the house, maintain the house, yeah. Some states, yes. Some states, no. Some states require that you pay taxes as well in order to be able to claim adverse possession. Other states don't. Paying taxes is not a requirement. But paying taxes is a tool to speed up the process. I'll explain that later. Oh, you heard me talk about him? That's what it was, Tiana? Go ahead, tell him now that you own the property. Go ahead, tell him. Tell him now. Now you don't say nothing. Husband walks in. All right. Tell him. I want to see that. Guys, everybody tune in to Tiana's camera real quick. I want to see Tiana tell her husband, I own this house. Go ahead. Do it. Anyway. Next. Uh-huh. You don't have to drag her out the door. All right, next one. Estoppo. All right, so all jokes aside, Estoppo. Estoppo, obviously the name has, this word has something here that gives you a clear identification of what it might be, right? And that is this right here. Stop. Estoppo, and we're going to go over this in a little bit. Estoppo means you're transferring the property to somebody else or selling the property from to somebody else, right? And this is true for mortgages as well. We'll learn that later. But in the transfer of title, right? So, Lydiana, I'm going to sell the property to you. The moment I sold to her, that's it. There's an estoppo, means I stop having any rights or claims to the property, right? So if there's something wrong with the title, and I say, hey, Leanna, I'm sorry, give it back to me because I corrected the issue, but now it needs to come back to me and then we'll figure it out. I'm stopped. I'm seized of any rights or interest to the property. Estoppo blocks me from the property. I sold it to you. I'm stopped, or there's an estoppo on the rights to the property. So now I just saw your message. I'm sorry. I got it now. Your example clear my confusion. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what the confusion was or what the question was. Let me know. Or if it cleared, that's great. All right. Voluntary alienation, you guys already know. That's unforced transfer. Involuntary is without consent. And then we got deeds of conveyance. What does this mean? Transfer. Very good. I told you I was going to mention it a million times. Just like encumbrance, right? So, for a deed of conveyance to exist, or a deed of transfer to exist, it is necessary to have delivery and acceptance. If there's no delivery and there's no acceptance, then the deed might not be valid at all. Okay? So if I write a deed that transfers from me to my son, so I sell the property to my son, but I never give it to my son, never gave the deed to my son, is it valid? The question is no. The answer is no. So it has to be delivered and accepted. Okay? Remember the story before? We had somebody that was sold the property and then lives there, another person that has the highest interest, and another person that actually has the deed. Right. The one that actually has the deed is the one with the best evidence. Right? We talked about this? Great. So if I sold the property to my son, but I never gave him the deed, and then later on, I forgot that I had given to my son, and I sell the property to somebody else and give them the deed, and they accept the deed, who owns the property? Is it my son or that somebody else that I sold to? The one with the deed, the one that accepted the deed. So it has to have delivery and acceptance in order to be valid. Has to have delivery and acceptance in order to be valid. Preparing a deed or executing a deed is not enough. Okay? So preparing a form, a document is not enough. Look, I can draft contracts all day. Are they valid? Not until somebody signs and the other person accepts the terms, right? So just drafting something means absolutely nothing. The other party must accept. Okay, and you guys are going to learn this also in contracts. There must be offer and acceptance. Here I am offering the deed to you, so I'm selling to you, and you have to accept. Otherwise, this contract of sale is not valid. Yes? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. Not both parts, just the seller. For the deed, it's just the seller. All the other documents, both parties sign. For the deed, it's just the seller. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about the basics of transfer. But yes, when there's a closing, it is assumed that it was accepted because somebody prepared all the documents for you and you went there to sign almost everything. So it is assumed that you accepted it. So it's under the buyer's name. The buyer does not have to sign. Sometimes the buyer doesn't even see the deed right away. It's going to be recorded and then you get a copy of it, whatever, right? So it is assumed that you accepted it by the agent or through the agent, I'm sorry. So, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's gonna lose if the seller never delivered the deed, right? Then you have to prove that the seller was competent at the time of delivery, and you have to prove that the seller intended to deliver the deed, that intended actually to transfer the property, pretty much. So you have to prove now. If you don't have the physical deed with you, and you say, "Oh, but I already paid for it," right? If that's what you're saying, that's what you're claiming. Well, prove. Do you have any evidence that the seller wanted to sell? Do you have any evidence that they really intended to deliver or transfer the deed? Prove to me. My son will have to prove that that house was sold to him. How is he going to do that? Either you have witnesses or have records of things, right? You might not have the physical deed, but you have to have something else. If you can evidence the transfer of money, yeah. That'll be part of it. Yeah. Okay, I'm the son in this situation. Okay.
Yeah. What? Maybe before you have to. What is the wait for?
Oh, so well.
I don't want to lose it.
All right. So understand when you get to a closing, and we'll talk about that part also later. But when you get to the closing, everything happens simultaneously. So there's no signing of anything until we have a clear to close. The clear to close means the money is an escrow account, meaning a third party is holding on to the money. And as soon as the transfer is cleared, like you sign the documents and you have your copy and they have their copy, as soon as that's done, the escrow company or attorney or whoever is, or title company that's holding the money starts distributing the money to whoever needs to go. But that's why nowadays we have all these things in place. Because back in the day, things were so crazy. We did not have deeds. Back in the day, especially medieval times and all that stuff, right? We would go and see the property and say, hey, let's walk around. Let me show you the house, or let me show you the land, right? We would grab a piece of dirt and transfer. Look, hey, it's yours. This piece of dirt represents the land, and the land is now yours. It was as easy as that. So all I needed to do is wait until you were at war, or at sea, or away, right? And then I would claim that the land is mine and I'm transferring to you. Now we have deeds. Now we have documents, right? And now we have other systems like a closing and escrow, like attorneys doing the closing for us. That's why we should always have third parties involved, not just, oh, I want to save money, so I'm going to sell, you're going to buy, and we don't need anybody else. To protect yourselves from what you're saying, to be able to not lose the property or be able to claim the property, you should always have a third party. Yep. Almost like a witness to the whole transaction. You understand? So you should always have it. And that's why almost all real estate transactions that we as salespeople and brokers perform, almost all real estate transactions involve a title company or at least just the attorneys. So we're not liable for if this does not happen. It was not me. You didn't get your money? That wasn't me. I don't handle monies. You didn't get your deed? I'm sorry, that's not me. I don't handle deeds. I'm just here to help you guys figure out the process and you make your choices. That's what realtors do.
Can a notary help you as a notary person?
A notary person? There are,
Like a witness.
yeah, there are, there are closing notaries. Yeah. Sorry, every time somebody says witness, I think I'm in a gospel church. Guys, don't laugh. This is serious. Forget it. All right, next. Now I literally feel like I got the mic here. I literally feel like start yelling. Can I get a witness or something like that? It wouldn't look nice. All right, next. Validity of the grantee's acceptance requires only, right here, requires only that the grantee have physical possession of the deeds or record the deed. What I want to show you guys right here is I'm either in physical possession of the deed, and that's the first requirement, physical possession of the deed, first requirement, or record the deed. What I want to tell you guys right now is that recording the deed is not essential. Right? I'm gonna mention that in a little bit again, but recording the deed is not essential. I don't have to record the deed in order for it to be valid. What I have to have is delivery and acceptance. As long as I got the deed in my physical possession, I'm technically the owner unless somebody else has a superior claim. Unless somebody else can prove that they were there first, right? But I'm the owner, the legal owner. The legal title is mine because I have the deed, okay? Now, as you're asking right now about the monies and everything, right? You want to secure, you want to protect yourself, right? The deed does not have to be recorded, but if you want to protect yourselves, the best thing to do is record the deed. Put it into public records. This way the whole world knows, hey, if you try to claim my land, if you try to grab that dirt and transfer it to somebody else, guess what? The deed is right here. It says, I am the owner. Anyone can see that. It's available. And that's called being available. It's called what kind of notice? Nope. Being available. Constructive notice. So that's why we record, to give constructive notice to the world that whoever's interested in this property can research, and once they do, now they have actual notice. Very good. Perfect. So recording, not required. All right. So depending on the state law, the deed must meet the following requirements. It must be delivered and accepted. You guys already know. Have a competent grantor and legitimate grantee. All right. Competent means must be of living, right? Must be living and alive, legal age, and mentally competent. And for the grantee, the same. It must be in writing. You cannot have verbal deeds. It has to be in writing. It must contain a legal description. It must contain a granting clause. That means we grant or gift the property to the other party. Okay? So granting is like the transfer. And include consideration. What is consideration? Every time you see the word consideration, when it comes to real estate, we're talking about money or exchange of value. So consideration could be valuable, monetary, right? Or good, love and affection, right? So love and affection consideration is, you guys remember I transferred the property to my son? Did I ask money from my son? Of course not. I'm bribing him so he doesn't put me in a nursing home when I'm older. Here's a property, a lot of love and affection. Later on, this is true stories though. You have to bribe your kids, right? so they don't put you in a nursing home. Not that it matters. They'll still do it, right? And enjoy the property you gave them. What a sour life, right? Crazy. The ugly truth, yep. Some kids do that. They can't wait until their parents are ready to go to that nursing home. Have to deal with them anymore. That is true. But some people think they'll never get there. You guys will realize, and I've seen a lot over the past 16 years in dealing with real estate, primarily as an investor, and I've seen situations where I'm buying properties that literally the kids are just pushing for this to happen. Like the parents, I just want them to go to the nursing home. I don't want them to have this house anymore. I'll get rid of the house for whatever value, right? They're just like, they even live in different states. They don't come back home anymore. Get rid of the parents. Some kids are like that, unfortunately. All right. Next thing, it must be signed by the grantor. Who's the grantor? It's the seller. Grantor, seller. So deed, if they ask, the deed is signed by whom? Only. Okay? Seller, only. The grantee does not sign anything in the deed. And that's where I was telling you about the John Smith. Because the grantee does not sign anything. If I sell to John Smith, there's so many John Smiths out there that anybody could be a John Smith. And we don't know who it is. Because the signature that's on the deed belongs to the seller, not the buyer. And be acknowledged. Now, being acknowledgement is not required in all states. Okay? In fact, it says right here, some states require the acknowledgement. Some states require, not all states. Okay? But what is an acknowledgement? Notarize, for instance. Okay? Or recognize that the person signing is who they say to be, and their signature is correct signature. Okay? Next, recording. I already said that recording or putting to public records is not necessary to make a deed valid. It's not necessary to make a deed valid. Recording is not necessary to make a deed valid. I already explained before, if you want to be able to enforce the deed, enforce the ownership, then recording is something you should do. Do we have to? Not necessary. All right, real quick, deed clauses and conveyance clauses and covenants. So deed clauses is the things that must be included in every deed, right? And covenants are the promises or warranties. So, conveyance clause, he has to have, this is the only required clause, not Santa Claus, okay? It's the granting clause. And the granting clause means I grant, I gift, I transfer the property to you. Okay? It's the only one that's required, the only one that talks about the conveyance. Transfer. The other clauses, like the habendum clause, simply means, depending on the type of deeds that you have, and there's different types of deeds, simply means to have and to hold. So I'm giving you this property to have and to hold based on these conditions, right? So if it's a life estate, to have and to hold as long as you're alive. So the addendum clause goes together with the redendum or reserving clause. These are restrictions or limitations to the estate being conveyed. Now, some of you are looking at this like all these names. Here's the good news. In the state exam, ready? State exam? They don't ask you about redendum, tenendum, habendum. barely ask about it. You have to understand the clauses required. You have to have one that talks about the transfer, granting clause. You have to one that talks about the type of ownership that you're going to have, if it's fee simple, life estate, or so on. You have one that talks about the restrictions. It's yours as long as, right? Or limitations on the property. And then the tenendum is, as a tenant or occupant of the property, what are you entitled to? Is there any additional land or just what you're buying right now? So, again, habendum, tenendum, redendum, you're not going to have those names. But you need to know what goes in a deed. A granting clause that says, I transfer. The habendum clause that says, it's yours to have and to hold with based on this, right? And then redendum, which is deed restrictions, what you can and cannot do with the property. Pretty much just understand what must be in every deed, okay? All right, what I'm going to do, guys, is give you a quick break, and then we're going to go into covenants or warranty clauses. That's where we're going to go to in the second half, okay? You guys good with that? Quick break? Perfect. You guys hear it? Good? All right. It's 12:18 right now. We're going to be back at 12:25. So you got 7 minutes. 12:25, we are back. YouTubers, we're closing this session and open one right after. See you guys in a bit.